Right now. All right, remember there's a 15-second delay, Amar, so we are live and in person. All right, cool. Let me just make sure we're showing up here on the YouTube, the tube of you. Hold on just a second, and let's see what we got here, Amar. All right, cool. Yeah, we're live. All right, sweet. Yay. Hey, everybody. Amar and Josh are back. We got to start with our disclosures. Remember, this is all right, there we go. I don't know if they can see it tomorrow, but if you want to go over your quick disclosure thing there real quick.
Yeah, it looks like people can see it. Essentially, we're not giving any advice. This is only educational purposes. We're looking at we're not looking at your specific accounts or taking your situation into account. So just broad-based information.
Exactly. So we are not tax advisors, we're not lawyers, and as such, seek your own guidance as well. So what we want to do here today, folks, and I will wait for a couple seconds to let more people stream in, is we want to talk about what you should ask of a financial advisor if you're considering hiring one. As actually, Amar, it's funny because I talked to two people yesterday, or one yesterday and one today, and both had the same it actually ticks me off because it's like, look, annuities are inanimate objects. They're neither good nor bad, but the fact that right out of the gate, these financial advisors, it's like, I got an annuity for sale. And I'm just like, that's not advising. That's selling. And
that's a product.
It's a product. And I'm sitting there. And so everyone then turns around and says, I hate annuities. And I'm like, well, annuities, you should have no animosity towards an inanimate object. You should have disfavor towards the people whose first thing is, if you're a nail, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. That's frustrating to me. So I thought this was actually a good topic to have, just given my the folks I've been dealing with the last couple of days.
Yeah. I mean, again, to the viewers, like last time we asked a bunch of questions of what videos you guys would like to see. And Josh and I are really going to spend the next couple of weeks just answering some of those video questions. So there's going to be one on investments, one on NUA. There's one on 72T distributions. So if you're going to retire.
Hold on a second. What the heck is going on? Can you hear me, Amar?
Yeah, it sounds like you have something in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see what the hell's going on. But yeah, go ahead. Keep going. There is something.
And so today, Josh and I thought we'd spend some time just like, what are good questions? I mean, if you Google questions to ask a financial advisor, there's thousands of different questions that you can find out there. But, not a lot of them are going to get to the heart of what you really want to ask or what you need to get out of those questions. So today we'll spend some time talking through some of these questions. Then we'll go into kind of, I think, like if you step back and just look at big picture, what are the three big pieces of when figuring out who you're going to work with? And then kind of talk about a little bit about value path and what you want to get out of this, get out of a financial advisor type relationship.
Absolutely. All right. Let's. So again, if you guys have comments or questions, put them in here. We'll get to them for sure. We won't get to them as they come because we definitely have an agenda we want to kind of keep to. Because if we don't, then we'll go on the diatribe. So Amar, as this is one, he texted me what we want to talk about first and foremost, and. Amar had an article from Christine Benz over at Morningstar, 5 questions to ask a financial advisor. We might go into that, but so start us off, Amar. I mean, just
I think the first thing you have to ask is like, is this person a fiduciary? Whose interest do they have in mind, right? Like, most CFPs, most people that are in an RIA space or whatever will say that they're fiduciaries. It's pretty obvious to people that are not. I think people that are not will, kind of like your example earlier, Josh, will come at any problem with a hammer, right? Like they only have one product or one sleeve that they keep recommending. So I think that's a good question is to ask from the from out of the gate, and you should be able to find this stuff on their website, or you shouldn't have to ask this, right? Like, are you a fiduciary?
Yeah, I disagree. I could care less. I'm actually going to do a video. There's an article I'll just share on the fiduciary thing. I think it's way overplayed. We have a thing I've got right here. The Misguided Faith in the Fiduciary Standard by Larry Swedroe. This has just come out today, and I completely subscribe to this thing on the fiduciary. I think it's all crock. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean that people who are fiduciaries are a crock. I think it gets way overutilized as if being a fiduciary means anything when it doesn't. And we know that. I'd much rather have someone charge me a front end commission, American funds at say 2.5 than charge 1% a year. If just looking at fiduciary standards, I actually think
but that's how they charge, right? But I think the fiduciary is just putting the client's interest above everything else, right? Like, forget about how the fees are charged and stuff like that.
I actually think we had come up before this. A better thing is, who is your client base? That's the first. Yeah. My first question is, who is your client base? And Amar, give the example that we had discussed earlier, because I think that is a better question to ask. Because this,
yeah, I mean, and I guess you're talking more around like, if somebody was 20 and came to me with like how do I pay off my college student debt, or how do I structure my college student debt? I mean, I'm going to have to pull from somebody else to get help because I don't know how to do that, because 95% of my clients are pretty much in the same phase of life, and that's what I focus on. And I think the benefit that I provide is that I'm able to see patterns. Like, I get pattern recognition by working with so many clients in the same phases of life, that I have clients in their 80s. I know what problems they're dealing with, and I have clients that are in their 60s, and I can kind of say like, well, in the future, these are the things that we need to plan for, right?
And I look at that kind of like an auto mechanic. I mean, a diesel mechanic is going to be different from a EV, going to be different from an ICE mechanic in terms of just typical gasoline. And as such, if you're going to, you can't be a jack of all trades in this business. And that's the concern that I would have, is a lot of people say, oh yeah, I can help you. It's kind of like estate planning attorneys, or I should say attorneys who say, oh yeah, I do estates. Like, yeah, but do you do that regularly where, like you say, you can see some patterns? And the nice thing about having, I tell you, man, it's one of those things that, like, I was talking to a guy today, Amar, and I already knew a mile away. He got $1 million. He spends about $5,000 a month on all in, probably even less than that. But I said, man, you're gonna be fine, dude. You can see that in I don't need to reinvent the wheel, because I know exactly he's gonna be fine, because I've done this 1,000 times a Sunday. You can see the pattern recognition, and yet, like Amar was saying, if someone's going to need some huge estate planning on this, I don't know. That's not my area. Another lady emailed me today about disability. I said, you should talk to my man, Skip Ritchie, at the Skip Ritchie Law Firm, because I don't know that. That's something that I don't know. But I do know, if you got $1 million and you're spending $5,000 a month, we add Social Security. I know that with the back of my hand, because I've done it so many times, and you can see the recognitions. And I just so important to know. Yeah. So if I'm meeting advisors to help me, I got to say, who is your typical client base? I don't want to just say, if they say everybody, that's not going to do it. That means they're a jack of all trades, and they'll take any client who can fog a mirror, and that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah. And I think like the other question is like, what part of the relationship, what role will they be playing, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they, 100%. What you'll find really quickly is that some people will say that they're their relationship managers, and they have experts in the background doing the investments and financial planning and stuff like that. And for some people, that's great. Some people, that name may not be good. You may want to work with the watchmaker directly, right, to kind of figure out your financial picture and stuff like that. What about how you're compensated? I think that's a good question.
That's huge. How do you get paid? How do you get paid?
Yeah. Do other people pay you? Do you get referral fees? Like, are you going to refer me to your buddy that's going to sell me something? all those types of questions around what is the total fees, right? So I think that's good.
Well, another thing along those lines is going back to the fiduciary so we have these little catchwords that people, they read these Morningstar articles like, oh, everyone's saying fiduciary. Everyone's all about transparency is another one of these little catchwords. And I about probably 3 years ago, Amar, I did a video and I asked help from my viewers. We looked at NAPFA. You familiar with NAPFA by chance?
Yeah. The fee-only network.
Yeah. And we looked at, dozens of websites of NAPFA members. And I tell you, to a person, they say they're transparent. And then very few had their fees structured. And I was like, it's just, how can you say you're transparent if you don't at least give a basis of what your fees are on their home site? And this is NAPFA. This isn't, FPA. And I was like, it was nuts. And I say, whoa. So you're transparent, but you don't tell me what your fees are. I have to know. No, give me a ballpark of what you're going to charge, because
it doesn't have to be the exact fee. It just has to be like, this is our structure. This is how we come up with the fee, right?
Well, just so someone can walk out the door having a pretty good gauge of what they're paying. That's what matters, you know what I'm saying? But they also should have a good gauge of what they're paying going in, because if someone does not want to pay 1% assets under management and you charge assets under management, I'm not saying Amar, I'm just saying you as the advisor, why would you want to waste your time with someone who doesn't want to pay that? Just don't waste your time or hers. And I would say have more value in your own time than say, well, if I get them in the door, I might be able to sell them on stuff. That's not how it works, man. It is, but it shouldn't be for sure. So transparency is a big deal. If they're not transparent on their fee structure before you go in, I have a hard, and that also means, I will tell you too, negotiating of fees pisses me off, pardon my French. I've known people in this business on the financial advisory side who are willing to drop their fees when certain clients get a little bit anxious. I'm like, well, that's not fair, man. So basically, you're saying your fee is so valuable that you're going to drop it because someone's getting a little more anxious than Grandma Jones, who's just trusting you. I don't like that at all. So if they're willing to negotiate a fee, hell's no at all. It annoys me to no end. Anything to add to that?
I think, look, an advisor shouldn't change their model to acquire a client by changing fees and all that. They may do it in a different way in terms of like frequency that they meet with you or whatever, but you should ask those questions because, one client shouldn't dictate the whole practice, right? So adjusting fees, I don't think, if somebody said, all right, we'll reduce our fees to have you come on, I don't know about that.
No, that means
that's from our side of the table, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Along those lines too, Amar, you had said before that though, you said about the people you work with. I forgot off the top of my head. I said I wanted to elaborate on it. I have to think about that. You had said something, so that was a good point. And I forgot off the top of my head. All right, so we talked about how they get paid, who their client base is, but we also have to talk about some, I hate to say credentials, but there are some credentials that matter.
And then there's some that don't matter, right? Yes. It's like alphabet soup in our world.
It really is.
Yeah. I got an email yesterday, become a behavioral EFA, behavioral financial advisor. It's a 2-day course on this resort, and you pay a fee and you get these designations after. The ones that matter have continuing education associated with it. The ones that matter are the ones that are in the industry and that are well known. And I think from my perspective, CFA, CFP, CPA are like the big three. Right, Josh, what do you think? Do you think those are the big three from your perspective?
I think two are far above the last. The CFA and CPA are much higher than CFP. CFP is being diluted. I tell you, there's something when we talk. It's something on because it's weird. I hear a The background noise is strange. I interviewed this guy last night. There was none. So I think it's you, Amar. I think it's you.
Yeah, I think. I moved my microphone thing all the way over here.
Okay. But maybe it's because I'm a CFP and I've seen the dilution of the CFP, and I got my CFP in 2004, and I just seen it get diluted, and it annoys me. And then, frankly, on top of that, I've seen the CFP, the Board of Standards. I don't know if you've been following the whole controversy the last couple of years. You just can't have that, and it really bothers me. In fact, it's funny. My wife was on a continuing ed course today with some CFP that was talking, and she goes, I'm not sure this guy knows that much. I said, that doesn't surprise me. Getting the CFP is kind of like Matchbox stuff now. So
yeah, you know what's happened is, like, with all these credentials, they're trying to create a benchmark or a standardization, and then it becomes a marketing thing, right? So they have to get more people to become CFPs, and so the volume to get, if the test is difficult, that's like a limiter on how many people become CFPs. If you want to make it more broadly out there, they made the test easier, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I think some education is better than none.
Oh yeah,
right?
no, I mean, look,
and it shows a dedication to the field, right? And so,
well, I just want the CFA and the CPA are more structured on number crunching, and that shows a dedication more so than the CFP. And I cannot stress this enough. And I didn't take the CFA. I didn't take the CFP. I've known people who struggle with both. And Amar's a CFA. And this, I'm just telling you right now, Amar's never going to be like, I'm a CFA. You should hire. It's not like that. But there are people who do that with a CFP, and there are people who do a CFA. I might grant you, but not to the extent that the CFP does. And if you look at the big three, of the three, the CPA is a freaking ball buster for a test. The CFA is as well. CFP not so much. And the reason for that is because the math component on the CFA and the CPA are pretty heavy.
Way
big time. And it takes a dedication of unique exams. Like, my wife works with a CPA firm, and you got to go through one exam, another exam, another exam. I think it's the same with the CFA too, right, Amar?
3 exams, and it's like less than 8% of the people go through the whole process on the first time. And I think this is all going towards, you want somebody that's knowledgeable and detailed oriented, right? As an advisor, you don't want your happy hour buddy to be your financial advisor.
100%.
You want somebody that's going to be able to do the analysis and get you the right answers, right? So that you can make the right decisions, right? You want an advisor that provides you with options. Like, here's option A, B, and C. Here are the pros and cons. This is what we would recommend. Where do you feel comfortable, right? Because at the end of the day, this is your money. This is your life. This is your situation. You're not going to change it for what you see here. I think another good question to ask an advisor is, are there any conflicts that I should know up front?
Say
Any conflicts?
Oh.
Any conflicts, right? Because and that should be pretty clear. So I think this is good with questions. What do you think, Josh?
Well, I want to go into a little bit deeper, because I think the conflicts that's going to be easy to kind of sweep under the thing. I think how can I say this? Is there any conflicts up front, in terms of I think that would fall into how you get paid. I think that's pretty important. Let me give you an example, Amar. I was talking with these guys out in San Francisco, and they were working with a Schwab guy. And I said, how do they get paid? And they go, I'm not really sure. I said, we got to find out. And then when they asked, and they were already with Schwab, and the guy hem and hawed. And I said, there should be no hemming and hawing here. And it's kind of like the same thing with the conflicts of interest and all that. There should be no hemming and hawing. There should be, this is how I get paid. My fee is worth it. And if you don't like it, leave. I mean, they don't have to say it like that, but it shouldn't be a hemming and hawing. And I've seen this business a lot where people will give this guy, that guy, this. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Amar, you had mentioned too, who will I be working with?
Yeah.
Man, this is a pet peeve of mine, because a lot of times the guy who you thought you're doing business with, I'll pick on Rick Edelman. I'm just going to pick on this guy. And I'm not anti-Rick Edelman, but Rick Edelman is not running your plan. Everyone knows that now because he's so big. But what I'm saying is, the Dave Ramsey is not managing your money or anything like that. And most people know that about those big guys. But there are a lot of firms just like that, where the guy or the lady who's the face of the office is not the person actually doing the stuff for you. In fact, you might not even talk to that guy, and that is always a point of contention for me, because you think you're working with Rick Edelman, and it turns out you're working with Sniffy Joe. You see what I'm saying? You're like, well, I don't want Sniffy Joe to be my manager because he's too busy sniffing little girls' hair. I want it to be Rick Edelman. That's what I thought I was paying. And I know that.
And there's a game of telephone that happens, right? Like, because you're talking to one person, that person's talking to the person actually doing the plan. I mean, things get lost in translation between that. And
Amar, talk about from a fiduciary, from a compliance perspective. I get this question or a comment on my YouTube channel a lot. Well, financial advisors, once they only charge me on how much money they can make, I'll hire them. You can't do that. You can't have a contingency where I only get paid as an advisor if I make you money. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there's a base cost to do the work. I mean, and if they're only paying on performance, then
well, I don't think you can. I don't think that's even allowable, right? I mean,
in I guess the hedge fund world, private equity world, you can pay for performance, and there are like a fund of funds that you can pay just for performance, but it's one of those things that from a compliance standpoint, you can't do that. It'll mess up reporting. Like there's all these other pieces that because you're then taking custody of the funds and stuff like that. So it's just a huge mess.
Right.
I would just say.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Well, one of the things is with the team approach. I mean, sometimes if that individual that's actually doing the work is part of the relationship, that could be okay in the sense that you're directly talking to that person. Yeah. But if there is, in most of these big firms, what they're trying to do is just gather assets. And so when they're gathering assets, that relationship manager is constantly having to grow their book of business or client base, and so you're not going to get that type of.
This is what Tom says here, Amar. With Fidelity, who's assigned a so-called financial advisor, and he was anything but. He was more of a salesman than anything else, and Amar and I both worked at USAA, and one of our metrics was bringing in new money, big time. And if you didn't, I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. I'll never forget when they first assigned. It's like, whoa! In the real world, to bring it, I mean, it's like $40 million a year. Somebody is nuts. And I said, how we already signed the 150 people. How are we supposed to bring in $40 million? It was so insane.
This question and then transition here. Yeah, I mean, if you're a captive advisor, you can only sell proprietary products. I mean, as much as companies are trying to go away from that, I even like USAA, their managed money solution, about 70% of the investments in there were USAA funds, right? Yeah. So having somebody independent that can have an ability to look at other products and not be tied to one company, I think is a good for clients, good for getting the right solution for you. One of the things that we haven't touched on is sometimes you should write down on a piece of paper, put pen to paper, and say, what do you want from the financial advisory relationship?
Oh, man.
Identify that before you go to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, then you can go back and when you evaluate the conversations that you're interviewing these advisors, say, hey, does this match up with what I originally wanted, right? Because a lot of times, this looks good over here, but then this looks better over here, depending on how people phrase it or whatnot.
I would even tell the advisor that, because I think as I take on a call, I say, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because the advisor has a right to know too. That way he can say, okay, before you hire him, because he can say, this isn't, like going back to what Amar was saying about, his student loan days, like, I don't know. And so if you go in there and you want to learn about student loan debt, and Amar's like, I don't know about student loan debt, there's going to be an inherent issue here. And
Yeah,
so I would
I'm not the right fit. I mean, it's pretty clear.
and tell the advisor, say, this is what I want to get done. Now, frankly, the advisor should ask you that anyway. That way the advisor can say, yeah, that's not my cup of tea. But, it's still, don't waste your time with these guys, and don't waste their time either. And look, there are tons of wonderful financial advisors. I can't tell you how many advisors I've come across that are freaking fantastic. I bash the industry as a whole because I think the industry is way too the fiduciary thing that bothers me. I'm just like, man, stop it. All that stuff drives me crazy.
I think it came from like a culture of growth, right? Like financial advisors historically, the corporate culture has always been surrounded by growth.
Exactly. It's a get new instead of retain. And I always said, these idiots, man, it's so much more cost effective to retain your current clients than to get a new one. It's like what, 7-to-1 ROI? That's nuts enough. Right. Good stuff. So
we got the top three. Let's just kind of go through the top three that I think we said. It's like, first, you got to find, what tends to happen today is that you may get a referral from your neighbor, your golfing buddy, or something like that. And then that's how most people make a connection with an advisor or somebody that you have hobbies with, and it's a referral. It's like an introduction to an advisor, but most people don't see if that advisor is a right fit for them. So like that, the first thing here is make sure that they have the right knowledge, right? The knowledge base, which we talked about, CPA, CFA, CFP would be like bare minimum for knowledge base. The second thing we talked about is experience, right? Making sure that they know or they have experience with people just like you, right? And so Josh, let's maybe give an example. Why don't you give an example? Like, who are people that you work with? Like, so make sure, so if you define it and if it's very clear, then
I already talked about that. But if but you have a better example for yourself, so go into that.
Yeah, I mean, like I work with basically 3 different types of people, right? Like I work people that are looking, they're older in terms of age, but they're looking to simplify, looking to make sure that their investments, go through legacy planning, looking for either trustee services or estate planning specifically. Then the second group of people are looking for like an integrated approach, take my taxes into account, take my investments into account, and estate planning, and I just want to outsource it to somebody else. And the needs are really just making sure that everything's coordinated, right? And then the third type of person that I would say we work with is like people that have gone through a life event and now they're either single from either being widowed or divorced, or they've never had to be the person making all the financial decisions, and they really want to get education and make the right decisions, right? So have that sounding board to make sure that they re-anchor their new reality to making better financial decisions. And I think that's important, is that you find those needs that the advisor fills and make sure they line up with you as a client, right?
And don't forget, guys, it's okay for a financial advisor to be able to tell you what you don't want to hear. Way too many advisors are nice guys. They're nice guys. That's why they're in the business, because they're people person. They're people pleasers, if that makes sense. It's hard to tell people that they're not on track. It's tough. If you're paying somebody a fee to tell you what you don't want to hear. How do you know that in the front end? I don't know. But if all you're hearing is freaking unicorns and cotton candy after a couple of years, you might want to say, I'm not so sure we're on the right page here. So
yeah, it's confirmation, right? They're just advisors are people. They have a lot of people skills, right? And if they're confirming the same thing over and over again for you, you need somebody that's going to challenge you, be a good sounding board,
right,
to make better financial decisions, right?
And lastly, Amar says something too that was actually pretty good about when you're talking to a financial advisor. Now I forgot I forgot. It's just you just have to have this relationship of you're able to have a conversation with somebody that you know is going to work for you, man, and not just work for the firm. But all right, so that was 30 minutes. So let's go into some of these questions we have here, Amar.
Let's
Lots of good stuff. So Jesus Ramirez says, and I don't know if where Jesus is, but he has no mortgage. He has about 700,000. Is it a good idea to get money? Okay. So he's thinking of refinancing his mortgage and investing it. He's 64 and wants to retire at 66. What do you think, Amar? I'm chuckling.
I can't answer that.
What are you saying?
I can't answer that. I mean, there's more details there that need to be had. But I would never take a mortgage out to invest because one's guaranteed and one's variable, right? And that's just at a high level. I need to know more.
No, I will not be at a high level. I'll tell you straight up. If you're going to refinance your house and take the money out and invest it, and you're only going to retire in 2 years, there's something gone seriously awry with your train of thought here, brother. That's crazy talk. But Josh, I can get better returns in the market than I can in my mortgage. Yeah, you can until you can't. No way would I be doing that. But hey, are you familiar with this company called MicroStrategy, Amar? Have you heard of these guys?
Yeah, they're buying Bitcoin.
Yes, but you know how they're buying Bitcoin? You know what they're doing?
Yeah.
They're selling bonds. I'm like, I was like, so basically you are going to loan them money so they can speculate on Bitcoin. That's freaking insane. So Jesus we're going to loan him money against his living arrangements so he can speculate on the market. Crazy talk, man. Don't do that. All right, so Kim, who's fixing to be in Idaho, leaving California, Mar, as if I think California lost $8.8 billion of assets by people fleeing the state because of people like Kim getting out of Dodge. Amar, it's only a matter of time for you too, man, when Gruesome gets reelected.
I disagree with that. I mean, people are selling their houses for like ridiculous dollar amounts. That means somebody can afford to buy those houses.
I agree with that. I find that I completely. Everyone's saying everyone's selling their houses in New York and leaving. I said, but someone's buying them. There's got to be this anyway. Yeah. No, seriously, Amar, 529 plans. I don't know if you can see this, but take that away.
Yeah, I mean, so if you take money outside of higher education, I believe there's a 10% penalty on the growth.
On the growth, yeah.
And then you have to pay taxes, right? But I think the advantage of a 529 plan is really, in my opinion, is if you value higher education, if education is something important to you and your family, and you want to steer your children to get higher education, the 529 plan is the clearest signal that you can give to your children and grandchildren that this money is used for education. Right? There's a purpose behind it. Oftentimes, people will just leave money through a trust, and there's a bunch of money there, but the original grantor had a purpose for that money. I want you to use this for education. I want you to use this for buying your first house. But that's never communicated. And I think with the 529 plan, it's pretty clear that those dollars are used for education. So I don't know if that helps.
No, 100%. I think what you're saying here is, but not used for college. I think if that's a contingency, I wouldn't do it because, like Amar is saying, the 529 is the clearest way to say, I expect this money to be used for college. And if it's likely they're not doing it, I wouldn't mess with it.
And 529 plans only have like 14 to 15 investment options, and they have restrictions on what you can buy and sell, like how many times you can buy and sell. So it may not give you the flexibility that you need if you're trying to withdraw money for yourself.
I'm not the biggest fan of 529 plans. I think there's some, for a specific set of the population, as Amar identified, I think they make great sense. Other than that, I don't think it's all of that in a bag of chips. There'll be a lot of people on YouTube will say otherwise. They're the greatest thing since the Roth IRA and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I disagree. Rob Deutsch, who apparently is in Paris, Texas. Look at that, Amar. He's in Paris, Texas with the Eiffel Tower. Says he's 50, wants to retire in 2 years. It's hard to plan your retirement expenses without knowing what Obamacare will cost per month for a couple. Do you have any idea, Amar, and about the average cost for a couple? Or,
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's nuts, Rob. I talked to a guy, I think he was in Texas a couple weeks ago. He's paying like $50 a month. I talked to a guy who's paying like $300 a month, and I've talked to another guy who's not getting any subsidies, paying like $1,800 a month. So,
and then it also depends on the states, right?
Yeah,
the state has their own health like pool there as well that they.
I would probably default say $500 a month for each of you, for you and your better half. But like somebody said in here, someone said just go to healthcare.gov and put your info in. I forgot who said that, and then you can get a gauge. I think that's the best way to go. I haven't looked at healthcare.gov for a couple of years, but I do talk to a lot of people who do, and they seem to be pretty fond of that website, and you'll get a pretty good gauge there, brother. So use that.
Kim or Gary said that you should look into UGMAs or UTMAs. Yeah, I mean that's good too, but you just got to be careful because that's an irrevocable gift. There's thousands of times. I don't know, Josh, if you have any specific examples where somebody's putting the money in one of these accounts and then they don't want their kids to get it. I mean, they could have a substance abuse problem, or they could be influenced by boyfriends and girlfriends, and
I'm not a fan of these. Generally speaking, Kim, I mean, I would, and this Gary makes a good point. UTMAs or UGMAs and separate. Right? There's no way I'd do an UTMA or UGMA. 529s are the way to go for the specific slice of people who are specifically going to school. I don't think these accounts aren't good, man. And I mean, I don't know. There's not much of an upside, and there's significant downside. And if you've been in this business long enough, you got that 22-year-old kid who's got an UGMA transfer to gift of my same thing, and you're like, man, I got to make him. It's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. I wish he did not buy that motorcycle. There's nothing you can do about it. It's his money.
And I've seen people where they're like, all right, I'm just not going to tell like the child that there's this money, and then you can get in all sorts of other legal troubles.
It's not yours. Lastly, just real quick, there's nothing wrong with just gifting the money. I mean, I don't know why everyone gets so caught up in the gift tax. You're not. I mean, let's say you had $50,000 in a brokerage account. All right, we'll just use that for an example. And you're going to give the kid $50,000, and let's say it's going to cost you $20,000 of capital gain, long-term capital gain. So it's going to cost you 15% on $20,000 to sell it, to give it to the kid. That's like a worst case scenario. The gift to the kid is tax free. The small capital gains, 15% on $20,000, that's $3,000. Man, what to do? But it gives you all the flexibility of maintaining the account. Yeah, you have to pay some capital gains along the while it's built up and qualified dividends. It's just not that big of a deal. I think people get way too caught up in small potato tax ramifications when the more you do qualified money, the less flexibility you have. It's just that it's qualified for a reason, which means you're losing your flexibility. And I discourage people from getting too caught up. I'm going to save $500 a year in taxes. Are you really going to save that much money? All right. So we got, now I don't agree with this at all, Kim. Kim says, number one thing to ask your financial advisor is the expense ratio. That's important, contingent on how they get paid. But, the expense ratio is just one tiny part of the overall compensation a financial advisor has. So don't go in there saying, what's your expense ratio? The advisor will be like, huh? What are you talking about? Anything to add to that, Amar?
No. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's just different parts of the overall compensation, right? And expense ratios, frankly, are the smallest piece of the pie. I mean, so you got to
know how you get paid. Just say, how do you get paid? So Kim elaborates. She goes,
and total fees. and total fees.
100%. I had a broker manage my money. He was charging 1.5. I was very upset. Then I started asking him Josh questions. He got hot under the collar. Yeah, because a lot of guys are, and I say guys, gender neutral, by the way, of the 52 genders. But a lot of guys are very hesitant when you call them out. And let me actually address a point too. Are you familiar with Nick Murray, Amar? Okay, so Nick Murray, I'm a big fan of his. One thing that he will tell his advisor audience, because advisors hire him for his newsletter, and it's just a great guy for coaching advisors. One thing he always says is never say dollars, always say percentages in terms of the fees you're charging. And I tell you, man, the reason for that is because 1% doesn't sound that much. $10,000 sounds a whole lot different. You see what I'm saying? So the advisor is going to try to get you focused on the percentage. You as a client need to get them to focus on the dollars. How much is it costing me in dollars? And then you can do more value added. Is it worth it? Because I'm telling you, there are plenty of advisors and present company included that are worth the fee. There are plenty of advisors who are not worth the fee. I'm just telling you right now, I know I've been in this business a long time. I've seen advisors make huge differences in clients' financial lives. And it might cost them $10,000, $15,000 a year. I've seen a crap load of advisors who only cost them $2,000 a year who hurt people's financial lives. So just because someone says I charge you $10,000 a year doesn't mean, I'm not, there's no way that's worth it. I'm telling you, that's foolishness. It could well be along the lines of, because we go down to what Tom was saying right here, or Rob was saying right here. They don't just work on my retirement, but look at our current taxes, make sure our wills are up to date and all this other stuff that goes along in it. That is what a financial advisor should be doing. Everything. This is kind of going back to
comprehensive.
What Amar does, which I don't do, is Amar will say, look, I'm going to be on you like white on rice. Freaking 6 times. I don't want to oversell your stuff here, Amar, but he's going to be looking at stuff on a regular basis.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. More than just saying, I got this ETF or that, gold coin stock. It's not like that at all.
And so Gary asked a question here. Can you estimate the yearly cost for an average for a planner? I mean, that's hard to do because,
Wait, where is it? I didn't see that question.
It's 9:49 a.m.
Okay, go ahead. So, all right, can you ask? Okay, right on. All right, right on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's hard to do. I mean, because it depends on what I think is what it should depend upon is complexity of the problems you're trying to solve.
Yep.
Right. The time it takes the advisor to solve those problems, and then also the time that it takes the advisor to explain those problems or give you the solution, get you to the point of implementing the solution. Right.
There's no average, Gary. You're not average. The advisor you're hoping to work with for the entirety of your life is not. This I hate to say this is a dumb question. The average, what the hell is that, man? There is no average because you, Gary, are not average. So who gives a rat's ass what it costs for Joe Snuffy down the street? All that matters is what it costs to Gary and what value are you getting. I'm telling you right now, and I want to say very clearly, just because an advisor charges you $10,000 a year. You might say, oh, my goodness, that's more than I made in my first job in 1985. Yeah, we're talking there's a whole lot more at stake than when you're friggin' picking strawberries at Maxwell's Farms in 1985, if that makes sense. If that $10,000 is worth it in terms of all the coordination that goes in with it, I don't even care if the average guy is paying $4,000. All that matters, I don't want to beat up Gary here, but I am so tired of the average. Who gives a rat's butt what the average is for any of this? The average retirement account, the average Social Security, the average it matters not for you. You are what matters. You are not average, so forget the average. I know what he's saying is there a ballpark number that I should look at? No, it's not. Because you are so unique and so different. What matters is the value you're getting for the fee that is being proposed to you. And now I will tell you, you should get that fee proposed to you up front so you know exactly what it is that you're going to be paying. And then you can put it in your head. You can talk to your better half. Josh is going to charge me X. What do you think, honey? And here's the things that I think is going to be value added. Here's the things I'm not so sure. Both sides of the equation need to be happy here. The advisor needs to know that what your expectations are, and you need to know what you're expecting of your advisor too. There are two parts of this.
Tom, oh,
Keith's in Turkey. Hey, right on, man. My man Keith Burchett's in Turkey. Right. He's saying appreciate the early discussion for those guys in Turkey. All right. We had another right here. Radar Dave. XFed TSP. Should I keep my funds in TSP or roll over to Vanguard? If I keep it in TSP, how should I allocate? No way to know these answers to these questions. I will tell you that TSP no longer has a value added that it used to have, Dave. The TSP, used to be the only game in town because the fees were so low. Those days are long gone. There's no reason to keep it. Well, let me say, be very careful. If there's federal employee health benefits, you want to think twice before rolling the whole thing out. Follow my man Chris Barfield at barfieldfinancial.com, barfieldfinancial.com. Before you roll the whole thing over, just make sure there's no federal employee health benefits that are completely subject to be lost because of that. But TSP has lost the aura of many moons ago, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Amar, you saw a different question on here.
No, I was just saying that Tom said that he got assigned a Fidelity advisor. Just like, I guess it was like reassigned another advisor.
Yeah.
And you couldn't answer basic questions. I mean, this is why you got to do the research and find out who the right advisor is for you. Should I put up the chart here?
Well, real quick, Amar, the problem with doing a research at a Fidelity or a Schwab or Vanguard is you don't know who your advisor is going to be. I mean, it's just they randomly assign them to you, and they're going to tell them. You can't say, well, I'm assigned to friggin' Joe Schmo at Vanguard. What's his background? It doesn't matter. Vanguard tells you what he will tell you. Vanguard tells a Joe Schmo what you're going to do. That's all there is to it. Now, you might have a better relationship with him. But you can't research individual advisors at these big firms because the firm is the advisor. The person is the person just mouthpiecing the firm. All right, well, let's just make sure we got some other questions. Braun says, are advisors limited to what they can provide? Yes. Big time.
Yeah, so, I mean, so the big two there is like, if you're at a big firm, they want to keep you within your lane, so to speak, right? So they may not be able to give holistic advice, even though they say they do. And then I would say the other thing is just, looking at proprietary products versus non-proprietary products.
Ron, financial advisors, unless they're estate planning attorneys, should not be drawing up your will. That's just a fact. They can only lawyers can practice legal, and it's got to be pretty. It's got to be pretty explicit there. So unless your guy is truly an attorney licensed in your state, they should not be drawing up your wills. That's just a fact. I will say too, I don't like the CPAs. They're with the PFS certification, which is kind of like a CPA/CFP combined. Not the biggest fan of that, generally speaking, and the reason is because if you're doing taxes and you're tax preparing, are you really? You make up your mind. It's kind of like, are you truly preparing taxes, and then you're also you're managing financial plans? That doesn't. I don't like that at all. So be careful when it's a jack of all trades in terms of he's literally doing your tax preparation, and he's doing your financial planning, and he's doing your investment. That's a lot of work to do, and I'm not a big fan of that at all. That's why a financial advisor is kind of like he oversees the whole thing. Focuses a lot of times on investments, but then he kind of farms out some of his other stuff. Yeah. All right, so here's go ahead, Mark.
So let's just changing gears from the questions here. One of the things that we did to create kind of a differentiation from within our firm and for clients to see the difference is, there are a lot of advisors that manage money, that help with income generation, tax. This is like most of all advisors can do this. Some advisors can help you achieve your financial goals, right?
Yeah.
But there are few advisors that help you get peace of mind, right? And aligning what's important to you to your financial goals to actually making that a reality, fulfillment. And so this is kind of like our value path. So for our clients, we say that we start with the bottom, we get this all dialed in, then we start looking towards your goals. And over time, we're trying to go up this pyramid, if you will, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
All right. So Jennifer, she asked us, is there an attorney on YouTube promoting buying property through Roth IRA? Yeah, I actually interviewed him, Mark Kohler, and I like Mark. It's legit, Jennifer. I frankly, so basically, Mark is specializing in Roth IRAs with real estate, and I like Mark. I interviewed him. I found it a little bit too not sketchy, but I just a little. I like things simple. I like it easy. I still have a hard time understanding the idea that Roth IRAs, the IRS is keen on if you had real estate, i.e., investment property, at a Roth IRA as paying rental income. Mark he said, look, he can repeat a chapter and verse on this. I frankly, I didn't like that. And when I said I didn't like it, doesn't mean it's not legit. Just means for me, I like it easy. I'm lazy like that. Amar, you're going to say?
Yeah, I mean, there are companies that help with setting up the structure of that because it's a non-directed IRA, right? That you need to get to do this. And one of the things that we've seen is that you have to get an appraisal when you're 72. Right, you have to start taking RMDs.
Oh, good point. Good point.
You have to get an appraisal every year. You have to make sure there's liquidity, if there's repairs. So for most people, I wouldn't say you should put all your money into this type of thing. It's probably a bad idea.
I think so too. Liquidity,
extra money, and you have to have an arm's distance away. So like a lot of people think, hey, can I use my IRA money to buy a vacation property or something like that? I mean, no, you can't. You can't benefit from the actual real estate or business that you buy through these self-directed accounts.
I just think it's like liquidity, the regulations and rules. It just makes my head spin. And the fact is, you're going to need somebody to guide you while you own that piece of investment inside your Roth. The nice thing about a Roth is you just open up a Schwab account, put a VTI, and move on. All right, so we got right here. Amar, do you work for people from all the states, or are you limited only to California?
No, we have clients everywhere. Yeah. Kentucky, Baltimore.
Baltimore's Seattle, not a state, Amar. That's not a state. Baltimore's a city.
Oh, Maryland. No, I was just looking at something else here at the same time. So yeah, you're right. So we work with everybody.
Yeah, my Mars got people in Wisconsin, Boston, and people asked me that. I had a lady the other day. Can you work with me? I'm in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I'm not going to see you. I do it all electronically. Are you seeing people in person, Amar, or is it all done electronically?
No, I mean, I try to get out and travel. I won't say it's as frequency. The frequency is not as high as it used to be. COVID kind of derailed that, but we try to see people in person. So I would say it's a hybrid. There's Zoom meetings and then there's in-person meetings. But
Denise says, do CFPs look at specifics to the state in which we reside? I freaking hope so, Denise. My goodness. Jeez, man. That goes along the lines of Kim, who said this right here. She talked to a guy, and all he did was talk. And so if a CFP, a financial advisor, if he's just yapping, let me tell you about my skill set and my qualifications and my this and my that and my pearly white teeth. Man, just get the hell out of there. Just that guy, he's doing it for himself, not for you. I will say something, Amar. This is funny. And this goes back to the old E-Trade commercial back in the late 90s when it first came out. And Merrill Lynch sued and got E-Trade to take this commercial down, which I boggled my mind. There's this guy, fancy schmancy guy in like a limo with his beautiful wife right here going into their house, this huge mansion, whatnot. That's a financial advisor. And then I think they had like a guy walking his dog, and that was a client of the financial advisor in front of this guy's gated house. I was laughing my tush off because there was an insurance salesman up in New Hampshire who had this house right on the water. And I said, man, and I'm like, I don't care if people, that doesn't bother me. But I always sit there and say, man, these guys are making bank. Is the client making bank? And it always kind of cracked me up. So just be advised. If your advisor is showing you all his goods and toys, he's getting it from you, if that makes sense. And if you're
well, yeah, and I would even expand that if they're doing like large dinner events, stuff like that, like bring a friend to a steak dinner and learn about financial planning. I mean, that meal is not free. Somebody's paying for it, or here are investment stuff. I mean,
all right. So Amar, and I know you probably got a hard thing here, but so here's a good one for you, Amar. If you are approaching retirement, should your financial advisor be able to walk you through the tax strategies of 401k and company stock and where you draw your monies from? So this might be Kurt Shah, because this is perfect for Amar. This is a big deal, especially company stock. And if you're not talking to someone like Amar, you're making a mistake. Go ahead, Amar, take it away.
No, I would just say net unrealized appreciation, NUA, is something that I would Google like right now and make sure that whoever you're working with, that advisor understands all the nuances with that, because that's going to save you buco bucks.
Maybe. I mean, it might. We don't know. But if you have some guy who just says, no, let's just roll over to an IRA and I'll put you in an annuity, that could be a huge, huge mistake. Huge mistake. Now, it might not be. But if a guy is not talking taxes and you got company stock and large 401k, that's not a good place to be. All right.
Hey, I'm just going to end it with Josh, just a shameless plug. Please subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. Client First Capital Learning is mine. And anything else that we want to add? I think next week we're going to talk about does Amar assist with the process? Real quick, Amar, say to interrupt. But let's just real briefly go over the difference between Amar and me. Amar is hands-on. I mean, it is white glove stuff. I cannot stress this enough. Some people need that, and you're going to pay for it. But you know that you have a guy who's going to walk you through point A to point Z. That is not me. That is not me. I just don't want to do that. I like to be my T-shirt, my dogs. Amar is going to walk you through this from point A to point Z, and that's why you're paying a fee. And now look, I'm not here to sell you on Amar, because we just talked about some of the negatives of financial advisor. But the issue is you can't screw this up, my friends. You have one time to get this done right. And if I don't know, maybe it's just the experience I have, but man, people make so many just basic planning mistakes because they thought they knew it all. And then they all say back, oh man, I wish I would have known that. I said, but people do know that. People do know that, which is why going back to qualifications, experience, obviously you got to know somebody in terms of trust, like, and all that. But also, are they in the area of business that you are in? Like, is Amar talking with 25-year-old kids who are set up 529 plans? No. So that might not be a guy for Amar. Are you about to retire with company stock and you talk to some salesman from Mass Mutual, or you talk to Amar and the salesman from Mass Mutual says, it doesn't cost you anything. And you're like, wow, you're just doing this you're just such by the grace of God, you're working for free. Don't do that. It's a big flipping deal. And just real quick, my man says, why do I need advice? I don't know why you need advice. No, I'm not. Amar and I are not here to sell you on why you need advice. I don't give a rat's behind if you need advice or not. I'm not going to convince you need advice because I don't want to convince you need advice. If you don't think you do, then don't get it. You get tons of stuff on YouTube, on Google. I don't care. I would never be here and say, you need advice. Screw that. We're not here to be like that. I tell you, what the best thing ever happened for me is when I said I get to pick and choose my clients. I'm not taking everybody. I don't care if you fog a mirror. I used to be like that. The best thing that ever happened to me when I got away from USAA and the big corporate conglomerates, I could pick and choose who I wanted to work with. And Mark can do the same thing. Can you give me – all right, well, I guess we got to go here. All right, so we'll let you go. So next week we're talking about – I forgot. The investment process. How do we invest money? How do we invest money for our clients?
Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so – and don't forget to subscribe to his channel and put comments.
And thumbs up.
And thumbs up and put comments on stuff you want us to talk about later. Thanks, Amar. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks for being here, y'all.